it's good to have on our phones and stuff that we can do, but we ought to be able to have an audible experience of worship of the things that God has done for us. And so we're looking at the Gospel according to John, the 14th chapter, beginning at verse number 1, reading down to verse number 3. Is everyone there that wants to be there? If you got it in the parking lot, go ahead and blow your horn. Amen. But Alco wants you to know, man, that you are an inspiration to us, and especially to me, for your desire to be in the presence of the Lord, all the way from Franklin, Kentucky, to come up and share with us. Man, what an inspiration you are to us. I think you're doing what God said, let your light shine before men. So your light is shining. Amen. This is what you find in the Gospel according to John, the 14th chapter, beginning at verse number 1, reading down to verse number 3. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. Amen. I want to leave this thought this morning. What are you doing in your Father's house? What are you doing in your Father's house? Christ here, this particular chapter above this, he is comforting the disciples. He shared with them his humanity and his humility by the act of washing their feet. I know it doesn't sound like much in just hearing that, but let me see if I can unpack the thought of what's happening here. Brother Andre, the Son of God, the only begotten Son of God, has put himself in a position of bowing down before men and washing their feet. I pray God you understand what this symbolizes, is that because if God himself can bow down at the feet of men and wash their feet, apparently there's so much more to you and I than we know. Let's talk about this for a minute, because if Christ himself is willing to bow before men, he must be doing it so that one day we can bow before God. There's got to be a reason why the Son of the living God has the audacity, Deacon Perry, to bow down before something like a man. When I picture that in my mind, I think about it, Brother Bill. The Bible gives us historical record that he removes the garment from around his loins and he wraps himself with a towel and begins to wash their feet. He says to Peter, Sister Courtney, who says that he will never wash his feet, because Peter understands what God is doing to some degree. He understands that bowing down to wash my feet should never be necessary for a king. And I hope there was somebody in here on the day that understood that if the king is willing to bow down and wash your feet, that means that you ought to be willing to bow down and give him some praise. So Peter says, you're never going to wash my feet. I know what type of man I am. I know what kind of man I've been. I'll never allow you to wash my feet. Jesus responds to him. He says, if I don't wash your feet, you don't have any part with me, which means that when Jesus bows down to wash their feet, he gives them something. And I thank God today, Sister Linda, that when Peter was able to tell God that he'll never wash his feet, that Jesus retorted to him that if he doesn't, he'll have no part in him. Because every believer now that believes the gospel has Jesus bowing down at their feet. I wish there was somebody in here that understood the power of Christ bowing down to wash the feet of men, because when God is willing to bow down and wash your feet, that certainly means he's willing to give you everything above being humility, showing his humility to us. And I tell you here in the text that there ought to be something that happens to the believer when they walk in the house of God. There ought to be something that takes place on the inside of me when we walk into the house of God. Because when God is willing to bow down and wash our feet, we ought to certainly be willing to put our hands together and tell him thank you. Notice this here. I love the way God does what he does, Brother Andre, because the Bible is clear. God doesn't just wash the feet of them that love him. He also washed the feet of his adversary. Yeah, I know it's hard to hear. Judas is in the crowd too, Sister Beverly. He also gets his feet washed. And can I pause for a minute right here and tell you that there are some folk who will stand stab you in the back that didn't have the power to do it until God allowed you to bless them. There are some folk that will turn on you that didn't even have the power to do it until you wash their feet. But God allowed you to wash their feet so you would know that even when the folk that you love turn against him, there's still power in the name of Jesus. The text says that Jesus also washed all of their feet, and then he told Judas, he said, what you're going to do, go and do it quickly, which means that he didn't even have the power to do it if God wouldn't have washed his feet. And I tell you this morning that if God gives the enemy and his adversary the ability to go do something by washing his feet, that means that no weapon formed against you shall ever prosper because your feet been washed. Peter tells Jesus, you'll never wash my feet, but God tells him, he said, if I don't, you have no part with me. In other words, what Jesus does, Mama Bell, is he gives Peter and all the disciples, including Judas, a part of himself. Let's look at the text. I think y'all understand the importance of coming into the sanctuary, giving God's name say honor, giving God's name say praise. We understand good that God had bowed down, washed the feet of the disciples, showed them their humility. They begin to cry. They're saddened in the news. He tells them that he's going to leave. But notice what he says in verse number 1. He says, let not your heart be troubled. Let not your heart be troubled because you believe. In other words, Brother George, he said, your faith ought to be stronger than any trouble you find yourself in. Let not your heart be troubled, because if you believe in God, believe also in me. Wait a minute then. If I should not find my heart troubled, then what should I be doing in the house of God? If I cannot find trouble in my heart because I have faith, then what should I be doing in the house of God? I'm glad nobody asked. I'll just tell us anyway. Psalms 104 says, enter into his gates with thanksgiving, and to his courts with praise. He said, into his courts with praise, be thankful unto him and bless his name. Which means God gives us specific instruction on how to enter into his house. That means when we walk into the house, Andre, there should not be a song that makes you happy. Just your presence in God's house ought to cause you to praise. Just your presence and the walking in the house of God ought to cause you to give God's name say glory. Notice what he tells the disciples, don't let your heart be troubled, because if your heart's troubled, you'll neglect to praise God. When you start to think about your problem, you'll neglect to give God praise. When you start to focus on the trouble, you'll neglect to give God what's rightful to do his name. What are you doing in the house of your God? Shouldn't have to take the preacher all this breath to get you to a place where you're willing to give God glory. You shouldn't even have to look back over your life to give God glory. You ought to be able to say, this is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I would have had about 4 or 5 folk that understood that they ought to be doing something in the house of their God. Can I tell you this morning, God gets tired of us coming to the house looking tired, feeling tired, giving him tired praise, tired worship, and tired prayer. When he's done all the work, done all the dying, done all the crying, and done the washing of your feet, there ought to be something that you're willing to do when you come into the house of your God. Notice when he tells his disciples, he said, don't be troubled if you believe. Don't be troubled if you have faith. Your faith ought to move you to a place where you're willing to praise God no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter how long you've been in it. Let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me. What are you doing in your Father's house? We spend so much time coming to the house, looking at one another, undressing one another, thoughts not on God. Dare I say to you this morning, if you get your mind on Jesus, your mouth will open itself up and tell God thank you. If you put your mind on Jesus Christ, your mouth will do the work itself. Let not your heart be troubled. It's amazing, Brother Michael, that right after washing the feet of men and telling men that if they don't get their feet washed, they have no part with me, that Jesus still has to comfort us. And sometimes when I'm reading the text, I wonder, is God ever going to do enough to make me want to be in the place that he called me to be? Is he ever going to do enough when I give him honor, glory, and praise and not worry about the trouble of life? Is he ever going to do enough for me where I don't have to do this right after washing feet? You still got to comfort men. Amen. Here they are. Been with their feet washed. In the presence of the king, and he still, Angela, got to comfort them. You would have thought foot washing would have been enough. That the man who gave sight to the blind, the man who raised the dead, the man who healed lepers, washed your feet. You would have thought that maybe this is enough. But here in verse number 1, we see he still got to comfort us. I pray God you see this because Jesus said that you can let not your heart be troubled by what you focus on. If you focus on your faith, focus on who you believe, your heart won't be troubled. Have you noticed that small things in this life will cause you so much thought about them? Things that are really outside of your control. You're worried about it, be troubled over it, lose sleep over it. Let not your heart be troubled. You have faith. You believe in God. Has God ever failed you? Has God ever left you? Has God ever put you through anything by yourself? In every song, he said, let not your heart be troubled, because your faith can go wherever you go. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God. Believe also in me. And my boy, I find that difficult to digest because these men have watched Christ work miracles. And here it is, he's still pouring faith upon them because he says, if you believe in God, then believe in the one that you've seen work the miracle with 2 fish and 5 loaves. Isn't it strange that he still has to tell folk who've seen him work miracles, believe in me still. You say you believe in my Father, believe in me also. And I wonder why you and I keep coming to this house or to houses like these and not giving God much. What are you doing in your Father's house? I remember when my grandmother and they would leave me and my uncles at the house, and they would go into town in a little place in Arkansas where I live. They would go into town. Georgia, it would take them about 15 minutes to get to town, and another 15 minutes to get back, and however much time it took them to do what they were doing in town. And we had the whole house to ourselves. But what I knew, Sister Courtney, is that house needs to be in the same shape it was in when Granddaddy left, when Granddaddy got back. But in between the time while he was gone, I was doing whatever I wanted to in the house. But when I got in my mind that Granddaddy was getting ready to come back, I would stop what I was doing and put the house back in order. Y'all understand, amen? All I'm trying to tell you on the day is God said you got to be doing something to put the house back in order. What can I do to put the house back in order? God just told us how to enter into the house. Enter into the house with praise. Enter into his courts with thanksgiving. At least when you come in the house, say thank you. If you don't open up your mouth to give him praise, the least you can do is say thank you for bringing me this far. Thank you for watching over me. Thank you for keeping me. Let not your heart be troubled. If you believe, where are your thanksgiving? If you believe, where is your praise? If you believe, where is your glorifying of God? If you really believe, where is your evidence of your belief? Where is the evidence of your worship? If you really believe, if you believe you're saved, there ought to be some evidence. If you believe God got you covered, there ought to be some evidence. If you believe, where is your evidence in your Father's house? Amen. Brother Andre, if there's no evidence in this house, there you go. There won't be no evidence in your house. Jesus tells these disciples here that their faith should always be stronger than their troubles. Don't let your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. I love the way that Christ shares this with them, Sister Rob, because the very thing that we allow to be troubled, God said that's why he will write his word. The very place that we allow to get troubled, he says he'll write his word on the hearts of all men. And that's the very place where trouble tries to drown out the word of God. If you allow your trouble to cover God's word, you will lose your hope. But you and I must learn to experience trouble with joy. James says that we should count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations. Count it joy because you know that God has pulled you through in the past. So you can trust him to pull you through. But what if you know that after I pull you through so long and you never tell me thank you, I make it a little slower and slower and pull stuck in your problem longer because you didn't praise God for past pulling us through. How does God pull us through? He pulls us through by the faith that we have. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were dealing with trouble, but their faith pulled them through. So it was their faith that put them in trouble. If you're not finding yourself in trouble, probably don't have much faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not. But when I'm in trouble, I see evidence of God always pulling me through. I love the way that he tells the disciples that it's up to you how you let your heart be troubled. If you let your heart be troubled, you'll miss out on a miracle. Have you ever thought about the things that God had pulled you through and asked, why did he get me out of this again? There are some in my life that most of the things God get me out of, they're connected to the same trouble that he pulled me out of the last time. Most of the things, Billy, that God get me out of, they're connected to a storm that he pulled me out of last time. Because I didn't learn what I was supposed to learn in that trouble. Notice what he says in verse number 2. In my Father's house are many mansions. What are you doing in your Father's house? What are you doing in the house of worship? God says, my house shall be called a house of prayer. But my question is, what have you made? We talk about what other people in the Bible have made his house. What have you made the house? You come in the house on Sundays and used to be on Wednesdays. What have you made the house? What have you brought into the house? It's so quiet, I can hear the lights. I hear the lights on me. What have we brought into the house? You can hear the best summer of your life. If you don't bring it in the house, you ain't leaving nothing in the house. You're not leaving with anything. Jesus tells the disciples in verse number 2, he says, in my Father's house. Let me just do some teaching here for a minute. Maybe it'll help clear up the conundrum that you all have. So when Jesus is teaching the disciples how to pray, he tells them, pray our Father. But here when he started talking about these mansions, he said, my Father. He switches from saying our when we're talking about prayer, but when we're talking about a mansion, he said my. Because it's up to you. If you're going to claim him as yours, whether you inherit what's yours or not. Everybody will pray and ask God to deliver them. But when we're talking about inheritance, you got to work in the kingdom to get your inheritance. Well, what work do you have to do? Your work has to be connected to your faith. And your faith has to be connected to your worship. And your worship has to be connected to your praise. And your praise should be connected to his glory. And if those things aren't connected, you won't bring anything into your Father's house. One of my mentors, he said that church folk do a lot of eating, but no harvesting. He said church folk, he didn't say believers, he said church folk do a lot of eating, but no harvesting. The harvest is the part that takes the labor to get to a place where you appreciate what you're eating. But if you're just eating and you haven't labored, you'll never appreciate what you're eating. So God says, I'm always feeding, but unless you start harvesting, you'll never appreciate what you're eating. When you come to the house of God and the word is expounded upon and you haven't done any laboring, you'll still get fed like a sheep, but you won't appreciate what you have for dinner. But when you start to appreciate what you have for dinner, when you come into the house and you bring yourself to the table, you'll be thankful when you get to the table, even before you start consuming. Notice what he says in verse 2, and I'm getting ready to push out of your way. God says here that in my Father's house, there's many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going to prepare a place. I'm going to prepare a wash their feet. He tells them not to be troubled. And then he says, if that doesn't move you to a place of worship, you ought to be thankful that I'm leaving to prepare you a place. If washing your feet don't get you to praise, if me telling you not to let your heart be troubled don't get you to praise, you certainly ought to be able to thank me because I'm going to prepare a place for you. I heard this sermon preached a lot, but I didn't hear this part for me. If Jesus says he's going to prepare a place for you, what are you doing while he's preparing the place? Tony, Jesus is going to go and prepare the place. But what are you doing to get prepared for the place he's preparing? So I thought about that and I said, Sister Debbie, I pray at home. I worship at home. But is that doing anything to get me prepared? I give people stuff. I try to be meek at home. But is that doing anything to get me prepared? I said, then if God is going to prepare me a place, it's going to be in his Father's house. Because he said, in his Father's house, oh, y'all there? It's many mansions. Which means Jesus is not going to build me anything new. He's going to a place that's prepared and just telling God that I'm getting fit for the place. What do you mean, Reverend? I go to prepare a place for you. It is not like he goes and he starts to build anything, because he told us in his Father's house are many mansions. But Jesus builds his relationship between the God of our salvation and the people that's willing to praise. Jesus goes back to his Father's house. He tells them, God, they're not worshiping you yet, but they're on their way. They're not giving you glory like you deserve yet, but they're on their way. I realized I couldn't pray enough to Jesus to go and make my relationship right, but I can worship enough because he created me to worship and to praise and to give his name say glory. So God says, I will prepare a place for you, and a place that's already prepared. Jesus walked into a place where there's already mansions, and he goes into those mansions and says, this is a good mansion for Michael Moore, because he prays on the level of this mansion. All I'm trying to tell you is, go and pray, go and live the best that you can. But when you open up your mouth and start to give God glory, you're starting to get prepared for the place that God prepared for you. Everybody got trouble, but everybody don't praise. Everybody got sorrow, but everybody don't glorify. Jesus says, I'm going to prepare you a place. I'm going to prepare you a place. But if you're prepared for your place, you got to get there with praise. Ain't nobody saying nothing. I'll just have a time myself. I understand. Open glory, full of singing, full of worshiping, angels are shouting, elders are praising, and in the place of glory, there ought to be praise. My question on the day, what are you doing in your Father's house? I know you got trouble. What are you doing in your Father's house? I've learned that when I praise in my Father's house, I release stuff for me to take back to my house. When I worship God in his house, he lets loose stuff that's fit for my house. Anybody feel like telling God, I thank you for the way you keep on blessing me. When you bless me, you bless my house. Anybody know that the enemy have desire to sift you like wheat? But God says, I've had you covered since Alpha and Omega. Now all you got to do is open up your mouth and just give my name say glory, give my name say honor, give my name say praise. There's some praise that can't praise God because the dead can't worship. But as long as there's breath in your body, you ought to thank God, not just for your blessings, but also for your trouble. They're not so hard to be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house, there's many mansions. I'm going to prepare a place. Some of us ain't got praise enough for an apartment. But God says, I'm going to make you a mansion where you can move in with your praise. All you got to do is start by saying thank you and watch what it does to your body. Mama, boy, I've been sick sometimes, and I would just wake up and tell God thank you that I can feel this body being sick, and just telling God thank you for you. Billy, Christ wouldn't have told us about these mansions and then said, I got to go make something. He told us about these mansions, and he said, now I got to go talk to the mansion owner and tell him that y'all ain't ready yet, but y'all getting ready. They not ready yet, Father, but they getting ready. They'll soon be ready. Prayer didn't make them ready. Have you noticed that when you pray and God delivers you from something, or He removes something that you're doing, that it's just, it may not even be 2 days, but before you've done something else? But have you noticed the one thing that God tells us to do continually? He said, pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. That don't mean constantly ask God for stuff. That means constantly talk to God. Let's talk about it for a minute. I'm going to quit. See, we taught you that when you pray, you ask God to cover, to keep, to deliver. But when He says pray without ceasing, He don't mean continually asking for stuff. He says, let's reason together. Although your sins be red as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. When we start to reason together, what are you doing in your Father's house? Some of us are looking for a church experience without our Father being in the house. Some of us are holding on to the history of our churches, and the history of our churches don't have our Father in the house. When do we get to the place to where we come into the house, we bring our Father something? Think about it. Before rail closed, when did you bring to your Father's house today? Don't answer. When did you bring to your Father's house? Brought my heartache. Brought my pain. I brought my trouble. How many years have you been bringing that? When are we going to understand this simple prescription to our relationship getting closer? Come on, I don't just want a relationship where I pray, I wonder if God going to heal me. I want a relationship with God where I can talk to Him and He can talk to me. But see, I know it's my fault. It's my fault that you think that you got to do all the talking when you pray. All the talking and no listening. That's the way we teach you pray. But when you bring something to your Father's house, you can surrender all, walking into His house. We the ones that take when praises go up, blessing come down. Bring something to your Father's house. What are you doing? When you stand before God, you say, well, I came to church every Sunday. What you bring with you, Andrew? I brought my 10%. God gave you that. What are you bringing? I stood in a lot of pulpits and I watched people while I was preaching. Some of them be watching me while I'm watching them. And I noticed something about us. We don't like getting out of our comfort zone.
That's right, amen. That's it. Exactly right. What it is.
We don't like getting to a place where we're not in control in the sanctuary. We like to control ourselves in the sanctuary. My boy, this is the place where you're supposed to lose control. This is the place. But if I never lose control, Angela, guess what I brought to the house? Nothing. If God is a spirit, then it ought to be a spirit in you. Cause you to lose control. I see folks sometimes, Mama Riley, they'll stand up and look around, see if anybody else stand up, then they'll stand. Because ain't nobody else stand up, they'll stand. let your spirit move you to a place where you feel uncomfortable. I promise you, I mess around and you find out you call a preacher. Just let it move you. Let the Spirit really be the lead of it. God will be trying to shake. He'll be trying to shake you in the middle of the race. Jesus says the mansions are already there. What is he going to prepare if the mansions are already there? In my Father's house are many mansions. But then he says, I go to prepare a place for you. I just go to mend the relationship. I go to mend the relationship to tell my Father that they haven't done it yet.
All right.
But they will.
All right.
They haven't done it yet. They haven't lost control yet.
Hallelujah.
But they will. They haven't honored you yet. You know yourself. If you've given God the measure of worship that he deserves, I cannot decide that for you. You have to know.
All right.
Here these disciples are, they watched these miracles, wife, and God still got comfort. And he said, y'all so, I'm just gonna keep it to myself. Y'all so backwards that you won't accept comfort down here. So I was just gonna tell you about the comfort.
Okay. Amen.
Some of y'all still with me. My baby, he said, I'm washing your feet. I'm working miracles in front of you. I'm feeding you with 2 fish. I'm doing all this stuff down here, and you're still not comforted. So I'll just tell you about comfort. And wife, apparently, even telling us about the comfort and glory does not push us to a place where we worship God. What have you brought to your Father's house? Listen, may God bless you. I got a little bit more, but I'm here to stop.
Preach.
I know I said verse 3, I go to prepare a place for you, and I will come again and receive you unto myself. Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to keep on. That where I am, there ye may be. Tony, you think you go in there if you've been doing that in your Father's house? I knew that when my granddaddy got back to that house, that everything was out of order. Better be back in order. And if I broke something, man, I better hide it to the best of my ability. God has left you and I with some talents. And then when he come back, he's not expecting you to just give him what he gave you. He expecting you to have taken what he gave and used it and multiplied it. You can't just say, Lord, I got what you gave me. You were supposed to share that up. So when you come to the house of your God, you pray in the house. Praise in the house. Let that praise move to worship. Start asking yourself before you come here, what am I taking to my Father's house today? On the way down, that was running through my mind. What am I bringing to my Father's house? Am I bringing thankfulness? Am I bringing any joy? Am I bringing any hope?
Thank you, Lord.
Listen, God bless you.
Amen.
May God keep you.
Amen.
It's our turn of prayer. Father, we thank you now. We bless you now.